I remember the sound of her voice more than her words. It wasn't fear exactly. It was something colder, like she already knew what was about to happen, and there was nothing either of us could do to stop it. I was already halfway up the driveway when the phone rang. Her name lit up my screen, and for a split second I smiled. That small flicker, a habit from before, died the moment I heard her whisper, "Don't go in the house. Please. Just wait for me." The porch light had been left on, a soft amber glow on the steps, like nothing was wrong, like dinner might still be warm, but something in her voice lodged deep in my gut, twisted, and refused to settle. I asked what was going on. She didn't answer. Just silence. And then again, softer. "Don't go in. Please, trust me." I should have stopped right there. I should have listened. But you can't unlearn certain patterns. You can't unfeel years of assuming everything will be fine. That's the lie most marriages live off of, that as long as no one yells, as long as everyone shows up, things are fine. We had mastered that illusion, but that night it shattered the moment I stepped inside. The house was too quiet. No TV, no music, no movement. Just the distant hum of the refrigerator and the faint ticking of the clock above the fireplace, the one we'd bought on our honeymoon in Oregon. It had survived 2 moves, a flood in the basement and a phase where I couldn't stand the sound of it ticking while I tried to sleep on the couch. I called her name. Nothing. There was a smell in the air I couldn't place at first. Not rotting, not burnt. Something metallic. Wet. It made the back of my throat tighten, but I didn't let myself react. I put my keys on the counter like I always did, shrugged off my jacket, walked through the hallway slowly, heart banging against my ribs. Every light was off except the one in the basement. I stood at the top of the stairs for a long time. Too long. And maybe that's what gives me the most shame now. That part of me already knew. The body always knows before. The mind catches up. My legs felt cold, my hands wouldn't stop trembling. I had this sudden urge to call out again. Not to her, but to something. Anything. Like a child waiting to be told it's safe. But it wasn't safe. The steps creaked under my weight. One by one. Slower than usual, like the house itself was, trying to hold me back. The basement door had been left cracked open, just enough to let that sickly yellow light spill out. I remember reaching for the handle and feeling how warm it was. Unnaturally warm, like something had been pressing against it from the other side. Then the phone buzzed again. Her name. I almost didn't answer. "Ethan, please," she said, and this time she was crying. "Please just wait for me. Don't go down there," but I already had. There was a sound coming from below, a slow rhythmic dragging, not loud, just steady enough to stop my breath. I told her, "What's going on? What did you do?" She just kept repeating my name like that could hold me in place. Like maybe if she said it enough times, I'd stay frozen there, suspended in that one merciful moment before truth lands like a blade. I told her it was too late, and I hung up. Then I pushed the door open fully and descended. At the bottom of the stairs I saw the tarp first. Blue, frayed at the corners, stretched across the concrete floor like someone had attempted a cover-up. Badly. The smell was stronger here, copper, damp. There was something wet seeping out from the edge, pooling slowly toward the drain. And in the corner, something shifted. I couldn't see clearly. Not yet. But whatever was under the tarp wasn't. Still, my pulse was so loud I could barely hear myself breathe. I reached for the edge of the plastic, my fingers brushing the sticky surface. That's when I heard it. A voice, barely above a whisper, from beneath the tarp. Ethan? It wasn't. Hers, it was a man's. I staggered back, almost slipping on the damp floor. My hand shot out to brace against the wall, but all I could feel was the pounding of my heart in my palms. That voice, low, hoarse, unfamiliar. It wasn't a ghost. It wasn't in my head. There was someone alive under there. For a moment I just stood there, frozen, like my body refused to obey anything my brain told it. A million things went through my mind, none of them complete. Who? Why? What the hell was this? Then I stepped forward. I crouched slowly, and with both hands I peeled back the tarp. He was tied up, wrists bruised, ankles bound, face swollen. But his eyes locked onto mine with something close to recognition. Or maybe it was relief. He was in his 30s, maybe older. Blood matted his hair to his forehead. His shirt was soaked through with sweat, or worse. I tried to speak, but nothing came out. "Help me," he rasped, barely able to move his lips. "Please." Everything in me wanted to run. My skin felt too tight, like it didn't fit anymore. My mouth was dry, my knees weak. I didn't recognize him. At least I didn't think I did. But there was something about the way he said it. "Help me," like he expected me to, like he knew I wouldn't turn away. And then, the worst thought entered my mind. Was my wife capable of this? I mean, no, this couldn't be her. This had to be some kind of twisted mistake, a robbery gone wrong, someone else using our basement. Something. Anything but the truth that was slowly crawling out from under my denial. I grabbed a box cutter from the shelf nearby. My hands were shaking so badly I nearly dropped it. I crouched again and began slicing through the ropes on his wrists. The rope was coarse and dug into his skin like it had been there for days. He flinched with every touch. "Who did this to you?" I finally asked. He looked up at me with bloodshot eyes. He opened his mouth, and then he hesitated. "She said you'd come," he whispered. "She said, if I could just hold on long enough, you'd find me." That's when I heard the door upstairs creak open. Footsteps. Then, her voice. "Ethan?" It was gentle, familiar, almost calm, like she'd just come back from the grocery store. I didn't move. I looked down at the man, then up toward the stairs. My mind split into two people, one screaming to confront her, the other begging to stay hidden, just for another minute. I helped the man sit up. His body trembled violently and he winced with every breath. "Who are you?" I asked again, and this time he answered, "I'm her brother." The words hit like a punch to the chest. But it wasn't the revelation that undid me. It was what came next. She kept me down here for months. I heard her footsteps start down the stairs, slow, deliberate, one creak at a time. "Ethan?" she called again, a little louder. "Are you down there?" I stood, my breath shallow, my mouth opened, but I had no idea what I was going to say. My wife, the woman I'd loved, trusted, built a life with, was walking straight toward the scene of a crime. And I didn't know what kind of person would reach the bottom of those stairs, but I was about to find out. She came down slowly, her shadow hitting the bottom steps before she did. For a second I thought she might stop, maybe turn around and run, realizing I'd seen everything. But she didn't. She walked down as if it were just another night. No panic, no apology. Her face was unreadable, almost serene, like she'd rehearsed this. When she saw me standing by the tarp, by him, her body stiffened. She froze mid-step, one hand on the railing. Her eyes flicked between us. Me holding the box cutter. Him, barely conscious and slumped against the wall. The silence stretched like a blade between us. And then she spoke. "I told you not to come." Inside, I wanted to scream, to demand answers, but nothing came out. My chest felt caved in. I couldn't tell if I was nauseous, terrified, or heartbroken, maybe all three. She looked sad, not frantic, not angry, just sad, and it scared the hell out of me. "What is this?" I asked, my voice dry. "What the hell is this, Claire?" She didn't answer right away. She looked at her brother. I saw something flicker in her eyes, something I couldn't read. Grief, regret, resentment. "You shouldn't have seen him," she said, almost to herself. Her voice cracked just slightly, like the edge of something enormous was pressing against her chest, something she'd kept sealed for far too long. She stepped off the last stair, her bare feet landing on the concrete. She looked so small suddenly, so exposed. The basement light cast her face in hard angles, and for the first time in years, I realized I didn't know this woman at all. "I tried to make it right," she said softly. "I tried to keep you out of it." "You kidnapped your brother," I said, still staring at the man on the floor. "Claire, he's half dead. There's blood. You don't understand." Her voice rose sharp now. You think this is some kind of twisted story, but you weren't there. You didn't grow up in that house. Her hand trembled. She pressed it against her chest as if to hold something in. You know what he did to me, Ethan? She whispered. Do you? I didn't speak. Of course you don't. Because I never told you. Because I spent the first 2 years of our marriage trying to believe it didn't happen. That it was something I dreamed up as a scared kid. But it did happen, again and again, and no one believed me. Not my mother, not the police, not even the therapist they forced me to see. She turned to face the wall, wiping her face with the sleeve of her sweater. Her shoulders heaved with one deep, quiet breath. The kind you take when there's nothing left to lose. I found him 2 months ago, living in Arizona under a fake name, smiling, teaching at a goddamn community college like he hadn't destroyed my entire childhood. My knees felt weak. I leaned against the wall for support. I looked at him, her brother, his eyes half open, glossy with something between shame and pain. He didn't deny it. He didn't say a word. Claire looked back at me, and for the first time that night, I saw her. Not the woman I married, not the stranger standing before me, but her, the little girl she used to be, the one who had been ignored, silenced, and now was finally being heard. I couldn't let him keep walking free, not after what he did, not when I had the chance. I didn't know what to say. Every cell in my body was on fire, trying to reconcile the woman I loved with the person who'd done this. Was this justice? Revenge? Madness? She took a step closer to me. I didn't want you to be part of this, Ethan. That's why I called. That's why I begged you not to come inside. And what now? I asked, my voice barely audible. You were going to keep him here forever? Kill him? I don't know, she said honestly. I thought I'd know when it was time. But I never did. I stared at her in the dim basement light. The woman I'd lived with, slept beside, shared everything with. And for the first time I realized something had always been off. Little things, things I'd dismissed. The way she flinched at certain sounds, how she hated basements, how she'd go silent for days when a specific movie or news story came up. They weren't random, they were clues, but I never saw them, and now I couldn't unsee any of it. I didn't remember sitting down, but suddenly I was on the cold basement floor, knees bent, back against the wall, the box cutter still in my hand. I wasn't holding it like a weapon, just something to keep me grounded. Something to remind me this wasn't a nightmare I'd wake from. Claire didn't move. She stood halfway between me and her brother, arms hanging limply by her sides. There was a silence between us that didn't feel empty. It felt like pressure, like the weight of years compacted into this one impossible moment. I loved you, I said quietly. She looked at me. Her eyes softened, but she didn't respond. Maybe she knew that wasn't a question. Maybe she knew it wasn't about her at all. It was about me trying to understand how love can exist beside a lie that enormous. I turned to the man on the ground, her brother. I looked him in the eye, and he finally looked back at me. Really looked. He opened his mouth like he might say something, apologize, deny, explain. But whatever he was going to say died before it left his throat. Instead, he closed his eyes and lowered his head. Coward. I stood up slowly. I need to think, I muttered, more to myself than anyone else. My voice sounded foreign, detached. My body moved like it belonged to someone else. Claire didn't try to stop me. She just nodded once like she understood. I walked upstairs in silence. The smell hit me again as I passed the threshold. Copper, sweat, mildew. But I didn't gag this time. I didn't flinch. I just kept walking. I grabbed my phone off the counter, hands still trembling, and stepped outside into the night. The cold air hit me like a slap. I inhaled deeply, trying to clear my head, trying to find the version of me that existed before that basement. He was gone. I sat on the front steps. My mind raced in loops. Call the police. Do nothing. Leave. Stay. Confront her. Protect her. Hate her. Understand her. I remembered something from years ago, maybe our second year of marriage. We were watching some dumb late-night documentary about a woman who confronted her abuser after decades. Claire had gone quiet, her eyes locked on the screen, fists clenched in her lap. When I asked if she was okay, she just said, "Some people never get justice. They just learn to live with the wound." I hadn't thought much of it then, but now it rang in my head like an alarm. I looked down at my phone. No missed calls, no texts. Just her number at the top of my recent calls list. That final plea just minutes before everything changed. I went back inside after 20 minutes. Claire was sitting at the kitchen table. Her eyes were red, but dry. There was a stillness to her, not calm, not resigned, just empty. Like a part of her had finally been exorcised, and what remained was hollow. "I'm going to take him to a hospital," I said. "Somewhere far from here. I'll drive. You won't be involved." She didn't argue, just nodded once. "I'm not protecting him," I added. I don't think I'm ready to destroy you, not yet." She blinked but didn't speak. "I want the truth," I said. "Everything, all of it. If I'm going to carry this, I won't do it blind." That was when she finally looked at me again. "You don't have to carry it," she said, her voice cracking. "You can walk away and I'll never blame you." But I didn't walk away. Instead, I went back down into the basement. He was still. Awake, barely. His breathing shallow, his wrists raw. I lifted him slowly. It took all my strength. I wrapped him in a clean blanket from the storage shelf, set him gently in the back seat of the car. I didn't speak to him. Not a single word. There was nothing he could say that would matter. As I closed the car door, I turned to see Claire standing at the front window, watching. Her hands pressed together under her chin like she was praying for something I couldn't give her. Forgiveness. Peace. An ending. But I didn't have any of those things to offer her. Not yet. I drove through the night in silence. The only sound was the low hum of the engine and the occasional shallow breath from the back seat. He never spoke. Not once. Maybe he knew there was nothing left to say. Maybe he was too afraid. Or maybe, like me, he was just trying to survive the weight of what had already happened. Every time I glanced in the rearview mirror and saw his face, a storm rose in my chest. Rage, sorrow, disbelief, disgust. I kept thinking of Claire, 12 years old, maybe younger, hiding in her room while the world ignored her screams. I imagined the nights she pretended it hadn't happened, the days she smiled at me while carrying something no one else could see. I should have seen it. God, I should have seen it, but I didn't. It was almost dawn when I pulled up to the emergency entrance of a hospital 2 towns over. I left the car running, walked inside, found a nurse, told her there was a man in my back seat who needed help. No ID, injured. She asked me questions I didn't answer. Then I walked out. I watched from across the parking lot as they wheeled him out on a stretcher, his face slack, eyes unfocused, lips moving in whispers. They didn't notice me. I made sure of that. I waited until they were inside before I got back into the car and drove away. That should have been the end of it. But it wasn't. Something kept gnawing at me. Not just the horror of what I'd seen, but the pattern of it. How Claire had found him, how long she'd waited, how careful she'd been. There were details I couldn't ignore. The storage shelves moved to cover that corner of the basement. The soundproof padding I never questioned. Her strange obsession with checking the security system, always at the same times, always methodically. Like she was on a schedule. This wasn't impulsive, it was organized, it was practiced. I didn't sleep when I got home. Claire was still at the table where I'd left her. She looked up at me with hollow eyes. "Where is he?" she asked. "Alive," I said. "Being treated. Under someone else's name." She nodded. "Just once. I need you to tell me everything now," I said, "and not just about him, about you, about what else I don't know." And that's when she broke, not with tears, with a silence that was worse than screaming, a silence that filled the room with static, like something terrible had cracked open inside her, and the air couldn't hold it. "I'm not the only one," she whispered finally. My breath caught. "What?" She looked up at me. "He hurt other girls too, I found them. One of them died last year, suicide, another's in a mental hospital, and the third, she disappeared." No one even knows where she went." She swallowed hard. "I found the evidence. I spent months tracking it all down, emails, photos, old court records, the kind of things that disappear if you don't know where to look." He covered his tracks, but not well enough. My knees felt weak again. I sat across from her, heart hammering in my throat. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I knew what I'd do," she said, "and I couldn't risk you trying to stop me." I stared at her for a long time. My wife, the woman I thought I'd known, the woman who had hunted a predator not for revenge, but because no one else ever had, because someone had to. And then something shifted in me, not forgiveness, but understanding. Stood up, walked to our bedroom, pulled the lockbox from the closet, the one with all our shared files, passwords, documents, everything Claire had access to. And as I flipped through them, one folder caught my eye, unmarked. Inside were photographs, police reports, screenshots, printed emails, a journal, not hers, but someone else's. A girl named Megan, age 14. Dated 12 years ago. Every page a piece of evidence that should have been enough to put him away, but wasn't. I closed the folder with trembling hands. This wasn't just about what happened in our basement. This was bigger. A history of silence, a system that had failed, a trail that Claire had followed into hell and back, alone, until now. Walked back to the kitchen and placed the folder in front of her. Her hands shook as she looked at it. "We're not done," I said. She met my eyes, and for the first time in all the years I'd known her, I saw her entire soul laid bare. Not broken, but burning. We didn't speak much after that night. Not in the way couples usually speak. There was no idle talk, no grocery lists, no asking how the other slept. Just silence. Heavy, sacred. The kind that falls between people carrying something too. Big for words, but we moved. Together. In the weeks that followed, I helped Claire organize the evidence. We created backups, scanned every page, documented dates, collected names. One of the girls, the one who had disappeared, had a sister who still lived in Kansas. Claire called her. I sat beside her, listening to the conversation, watching the tremor in her fingers as she apologized to a stranger for taking too long to come forward. The sister cried. She wasn't angry. She was relieved. We reached out to a lawyer who specialized in historical abuse cases. He didn't promise results, just said we had more than most people start with. More than enough to put pressure on institutions that had looked the other way. And the man, Claire's brother, stayed in the hospital for a few days before disappearing again. We didn't try to find him. He wouldn't go to the police, not with what we had. He wouldn't make noise. His silence was a confession, a shield, a coward's retreat. But that didn't matter anymore, because now he wasn't hidden. He wasn't protected by a quiet family or a complicit system. He was documented, named. Claire testified in a private deposition. It wrecked her. I held her, hand through every minute. Her voice never shook, but her body did. Afterward, we sat in the car for a long time. She didn't cry. She just stared through the windshield like she was watching something far away disappear into the horizon. I thought telling it would kill me, she said. It didn't, I whispered. No, she said, her voice low and cracked. But I think it killed who I used to be. That night she slept for 11 hours straight, the first full night of sleep she'd had in years, and when she woke up, something about her had changed. Not healed, not fully, but cracked open in a new direction. We started going for walks at dusk. No talking, just steps, just being. Some nights we didn't return until long after dark, and somewhere along the way I realized I didn't see her as broken anymore. I saw her as forged, and maybe, somehow, the same was becoming true for me. The man I was before that phone call doesn't exist anymore. He believed safety was a locked door, that love meant knowing everything about someone, that justice came from the right system, the right court, the right kind of proof. But now I know better. Sometimes justice is a woman, standing in a basement, facing her worst memory with nothing but her own trembling hands. Sometimes justice isn't. Enough and healing. Healing doesn't mean forgetting, it means surviving in public. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for your time. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe to the channel. It really helps. Click the video on the screen and I'll see you there.